How's you going, boys? Mike here. Welcome back to Grampie's workshop. Not a bad day today, kind of overcast. No wind though. Oh man. The last 3 days it was doing nothing but blowing. When it wasn't blowing, it was howling. Tell you what. And as you can see, we had no trees blow down because we have no trees. Hurricane Fiona took care of all that. But we do have a temporary shelter. We have got a couple of temporary shelters. And I want to just show you what happened to those. So this is a temporary shelter, domed roof, 10 by 20, and I put the tractor in that. Now this shelter, the original skin on it is toast. It's just the UV got it from the sun and totally rotted it away. But I put a tarp on it last fall to try to help it get through the winter, and that worked out all right. But the tarp wasn't quite big enough. But anyway, throughout the windstorm we had, and we had some big winds, like I'm not sure, I think, well, I recorded them around 35 kilometers an hour. And with my wind gauge, it's kind of sheltered where it is. So 35 kilometers an hour means probably more like 50 or 60 or even 70. But anyway, this shelter held up pretty good considering the shape that it's in. So I was pretty pleased with this one. But yeah, that has to be replaced anyhow because the skin on it is just gone. And the tarp that I bought to protect it is too small. But here's where the real damage is. Next door to it, I had this temporary shelter, which is also 10 by 20. And this shelter is quite old. I had this shelter for a long time. The original skin on it is this beige skin that you have up in the top there that you can see that's sort of half over the roof. And that skin was wore out. So what I did was I bought several years ago, like I'm thinking 5 or 6 or more years ago, I bought this big heavy gray and black tarp. I bought that at Princess Auto, and I managed to put that over the roof, and that worked great. And I have this end of it, it had wore out. In fact, this was the original door because there was walls on all 4 sides. This was the door, and the door was no good, so I replaced the door just with this lattice, just to support it more than anything. By the way, this tarp, this shelter was not meant to be like weatherproof. It was just meant to keep the sun and most of the weather off some of my attachments. The other end, you can see it up here. The other end was pretty well done for too. Yeah, this end of the tarp here, this one was wore out too, or the tent I mean. This one was wore out, so I knew that this was like on its last legs as far as the covering was concerned. But this gray tarp up top, that was still holding up pretty good. And it was keeping the weather out for the most part. Yeah, with all the wind that we had, that big tarp just couldn't hold it. And all the tie downs I had on it and everything broke away. And then the tarp just blew off, basically, what happened. The frame is excellent. The frame is very rigid and solid and good. It's not thick wall tubing, but it's heavy duty tubing. The wall in the ends, they were done for. They were no good a long time ago. The roof was holding up because I had the big gray tarp over top of it. But anyway, yeah, she took a licking here in that windstorm. I have my Woodland Mills wood chipper here, WC46, nice chipper, eh? But I had the shelter anchored to that. That was the heaviest thing I had in there at the time, and it was the most center thing I had in the shelter. So I anchored the shelter to that. So that kept the shelter from blowing away, but it certainly didn't hold the tarps down on it. So yeah, tarps are done for. Well, I got rained out the other day when I started to take the tarp off. Just as I come around to start removing it, it started to rain. So next day, it's a little windy today, but at least it's sunny. So we're going to try and take the gray tarp off first and then see about taking the roof down. So I'm not sure how this is going to work, but we'll just try it, eh? Well, she's pretty well stripped down. I think what I'm going to end up doing too is taking that end wall down. It's almost free of the framework anyway. The way the wind, when the wind blows and the shelter moves so much, it was pulling all the screws out of the posts. So I'll probably take that down, and then what I'd like to do is measure it all up, see exact sizes to see if I can get maybe some tarps to go over top of it again. I don't know, we'll see with that. But the next job I think is to get this gray tarp straightened out and see if it's salvageable or what's salvageable on it, and clean up the tan tarp and you know, go from there. So I managed to get the tarp pulled over and kind of squared away here. We're just going to measure it now. Let's see how much bigness it has. So I think it was probably 16 by 24, that tarp. So 24 was a good length to go over the shelter. 16 was a bit too wide, but too wide is better than too narrow, right? So when I look over the tarp for damage, the hole right there. This end down here, you can't see it, but it's pretty ratty in there. Like I say, along this edge, it's all pretty ratty. Starting to split up there a little bit right there too, so you can see that. And this corner here is totally gone. The hole coming in it right there. Another hole right there. Another big rip and tear in it right there. This edge is, well, for the most part, it's ripped up pretty good. You know what happened here? My old buddies, the squirrels, they decided they'd like to make a tarp shelter. So they helped themselves to that and never even asked me. So, you know, there's some areas of this tarp that are savable, but I don't know that it's worth saving to put on the shelter. If I put it back on the shelter, it might only last a year or two, so I'm going to have to come up with another plan. And as far as the tan tarp that was on the shelter, there's just nothing in that that's any good. It's just so rotten from the UV rays that you could probably put your finger through it anywhere at all. So I think that tarp's just going to get wrapped up. I'll save the ropes off it if they're salvageable. That's going to get just wrapped up and sent to the landfill, I expect. Well, we're getting back at the old temporary shelter. I think I'm going to take it all down. I've got a plan that maybe I can replace this with a building rather than a temporary shelter. I'm not sure yet. Jury's still out on that, but anyway, whatever happens, I want to take this, what's left here of the temporary shelter, I want to take that down and take the 4x6s I have for an anchor or a base around it, move that out of there, and then try to grade that pad a little bit better to make it level, more level. Move a bunch that's in there, going to put it over on the side landing for now. So yeah, first thing I'm going to do is the end wall, that lattice, that just blew down last night. You had another kind of a gusty wind, I'm going to call it a wind event last night, not a storm. Anyway, blew that lattice down. So we're going to start by removing that. So that's it. I got her cleaned out. I got to strip down now those little knee walls that I have, and then take this frame apart. That should take about 5 minutes. Got a break in the weather, so we're going to continue to take the frame down. I had to stop today because it was getting late, and then the next day it rained, and then it blew, and then it rained, and then it blew. Well, you know what the weather's like. So anyway, we're going to take this framework down today. Well, I guess that's the end of the structure. It goes up and down pretty easy, that structure, because there's no nuts and bolts involved in it, right? So now there's I've got some 4x6 perimeter around the back 3 sides of that, and I had a little bit of a knee wall built there one time because that shelter only came 6 inches from the ground. It was only temporary shelter for the summer. So I'm going to take those little knee walls off. Then I want to take up those 4x6s because I want to try and grade that pad off a little bit and make it more level. I cleaned up all the knee walls and took everything away. So now what I want to do is get the tractor here running in the background. I want to get the tractor and lift up those 4x6s. See how I make out doing that. Hope I don't destroy them too bad because I like to use them in whatever I'm going to make for a replacement, right? Anyways, let's look at the tractor so we can lift them up. I kind of thought this was going to happen because I screwed this or nailed this corner together. I'm going to try and beat it apart here. We got big spikes in it, eh? Well, I guess it's I guess it's good that it broke now, not later. Okay, well that's the end of that idea. I thought I'd be able to slide the fork straight under here, eh? Just slick as anything, but there you go, thinking again. It broke the end off of that stick too. Oh well. Some days are diamond, some days are dust. So I didn't have much luck pulling out my sills. Seems like they all were rotten. But I guess, you know, they were there for about 6 years, so I guess that's not bad. So I've got a couple of pieces of rebar driven in the ground here. I had those in there to anchor the planks down, the sills. A couple on each end. So we'll see if I can pull those out next. So that was anticlimactic, wasn't it? So I'm going to take the forks off the bucket and try and grade this off a little bit, see what kind of mess I can make with it, see whether this is a worthwhile project or exercise or not. It's not right flat. Well, it's flat. It's not right level. I need some gravel, I think. All right. I think I'm going to call it a day. I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll do some more on this. All right, it's the next day. It's cloudy, wet, rainy, windy, chilly. No bugs, though. Anyway, I spent some time and raked off this a little bit more. But I think we're going to pause this job. I talked about putting another, I'd like to put a shelter in here, like build a shelter, a structure, I mean, to put my attachments in. But I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go with that. I crunched some numbers and anyway, not sure. Worst case scenario would be I'd put another temporary shelter back in here, but I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, so I'm going to have to think about it. So in the meantime, this job is on pause. I got all my attachments out there on the side landing, in the rain, in the sun, and I need to do something quick. But for now, the brakes are put on this project. Sorry about that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Sure hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to thumbs up me, and I hope you're having a great week wherever you are. And we'll talk to you soon.